It's time for the View in Your Mirror podcast. I'm Katie Harms, and along with Lisa Rubin, we help you check in and curate the best possible you and the best view in your mirror. We share tips, tricks, and strategies from our 35 plus years in our respective industries. We talk about your day from morning to night and everything in between. We share our uniqueness, relish in our shared experiences. Along the way, we share conversation with fabulous people who give us their own thought-provoking insights. So come along as we help you hone the best view in your mirror.
Yay, Lisa.
Katie, I know you have so much to say this morning.
I'm bouncing off the walls here in the best possible way. Before we get into the weekend, I want to talk about our presenting sponsor because I stopped into the store last week and I paid attention to lunches for a quick grab and go. But also, I looked around. I happened to be at the Edina location, which is in Southdale Mall. The other location is right off of Bidet Mock Sky, and both with phenomenal parking. And avocado toast, seasonal quiche, ham and Swiss quiche, yoga parfait, a hard-boiled egg, to name a few. I had the most delicious 3-cheese potato focaccia.
Oh my goodness, that sounds delicious.
Isn't that yummy? Now, they don't always have these listed on the website, so you really have to stop in because that's where you're going to find the delectables. They had an almond Danish. I didn't get it, but it's going to be what I'm going to pick next time.
That's my favorite. Anything with almond, that's what I go for.
I didn't know that. I didn't know you loved.
Well, because when I'm at Rustica, I go for the cookie. Or the monkey bread or the iced tea, but really when I'm traveling and I go into a bakery, I look to see where the almond is.
I saw the cookies and I thought I really should pick up some cookies and send them to Lisa, but then I knew I had a crazy weekend coming up and I couldn't fit in the getting them sent off to you. So I'm sorry, but I did think of you and I saw the cookies and I sent warm feelings of cookiness to you.
Thank you, Katie. Don't send me cookies because I'll eat them all. Let's just wait till I get back to Minnesota and then we'll have them together.
Well, we certainly love Rustica and we are so happy to have them as our presenting sponsor. Now, let me tell you about the weekend. I had the most amazing experience. I went to Tamsin Fidal's world's largest menopause party. Now, it's been a while since I've gone through menopause, at least as far as I know. I am one of those people who had a hysterectomy in her 40s, kept my ovaries. So wasn't really sure when I was cycling and didn't really know when I didn't have the benefit of 12 months without a period. So at some point I tested in menopause. But what I found myself feeling at this event that I was at was it was like standing in front of the fire hydrant trying to get a sip of water. There was that much information and it was fascinating. And I love learning, but I was also pissed. I was pissed that there's a whole generation of people, us included, that has sort of been left in the dust. And so what I want our mission to be, what I want our calling, I don't know what you want to call it. I just want to inform people. I want women to know. I want women who are going through this in their 50s. I want our daughters to know what's coming up. I am so excited and so happy that there is now all these resources.
Yeah, I was excited to hear about it. I kept texting you, and then you were texting me about, oh my God, this. And I was so happy that you found out about this and you actually went. You get all this information thrown at you sometimes, right. And then you think, I don't know, I don't need to do that. And you decided, I want to do this for some reason, right? Well, now you know the reason.
Well, the reason, and here's the weird thing, and this is the God's honest truth. I wasn't thinking about it in terms of the podcast or what we'd get out of it for the podcast.
No.
I truly have had health issues for 20 years, and I am finally to my best health that I've been at for the last 20 years, right? Maybe a little even more than that. Really, when I started in my 40s and things just went off the rails. And probably going back to that, it was a lot of hormonal stuff. So when I did this, I have a sister who's 9 years younger than me, my sister I was raised with. And And I say my sister I was raised just because I'm adopted, and I also have biological half sisters and half brothers, and it's kind of a fun story. But my sister I was raised with lives in Las Vegas. And I said, hey, what are you doing this weekend? This came up. I literally decided middle of last week. What are you doing?
Oh, I didn't know that part.
Yes. What are you doing? I'll come in and let's go to this thing. I'm gonna take you to this thing. There was an opportunity to be in the studio audience. And I love that kind of stuff. I mean, I think in a past life I would have done something or whatnot, right, in media. I'd have done something. I guess I'm doing it now, right? So anywho, she said, well, it's kind of your thing. It's not my thing, but okay. And so that's how it happened. So I thought of it, and then I really was thinking, I want to know as much as I can. So when my three very intelligent daughters who can do their own research and have their own information, but when they're going through this, I can assist them. I can have knowledge that will help them. That's really what it's all about, is how can I help them? And so then why wouldn't I want to help other people? Well, so then I'm sitting there, and there were a lot of women doing social media, clearly. And I started talking. There's a couple people that had podcasts. Matt Jen has a podcast in San Fran. And I started thinking, well, my gosh, I have a podcast. And then also, our guest today is Joanna Strober, who is the founder of Midi. And I saw that there was a woman who is also with Midi, Dr. Mindy Goldman, who is Midi's chief clinical officer. And she brings decades of experience as an OBGYN to all her patient care. But survivors of breast cancer and at-risk women are a special focus for her. And I truly enjoyed talking to her. She is a nationally recognized expert, and she was one of the panelists, and it was fascinating to listen to all of them, really just affirming, and things are looking up for women's healthcare. The energy of the room was pretty incredible, and long gone are the feelings of being in a room of women where it's competition as opposed to collaboration. So there was all of that going on. It was phenomenal. Then it was kind of like the lightning bolt hit me, and I'm like, well, clearly I should be talking to people about the podcast, because why wouldn't we want to have them on? So I would certainly hope that the people that told me yes, we can secure them to come on, because I would love to have Tamsin Fadal on. Stacey London was just delightful. I would love to have Stacey London on. Mindy Gold.
Do they know about our podcast? Did you tell them what our podcast was?
Because I told them all about it and got their contact information. So there was such a brain trust in the room. But here's my takeaway. And I wrote this down so I wouldn't forget it. Aren't you proud of me? I took notes, Lisa.
I'm so proud of you, Katie. See what you're learning?
I am, which I love. Okay. Data and science is finally validating what women have been saying, what women have known for centuries. Women are tuned into their bodies and need to keep trusting their intuition. They are not, nor have they ever been broken. And we need research to catch up to and to be able to prove what we have intuitively known. Collaboration is the key, and financing is critical, because the financing that goes into men's stuff is crazy, and that shift needs to be happening. We've heard that from, Katie Sievert is working tirelessly on this with her group, Let's Talk Women. Yeah, it's things that made me go, OMG, okay? Cindy Eckert is the founder of ADDYI, ADDYI, which is a libido helper, right? And I'm sure there's a better way to say it, but it is a prescription drug. She brought a men's erectile dysfunction product to the market. She was one of the first ones. So I'm assuming, she didn't say which one it was. I'm assuming it's
Viagra.
It's probably Viagra, but she said it occurred to her when she's in this room of men. There are 26 approved aids for men, but none for women at that time. 26 approved aids. And yet more women have libido issues than men do erectile dysfunction. Women have clinically proven options with more science, but they're not taken seriously. And so she worked to bring this to market, and she told the story of one woman who was told by her doctor, I will not prescribe this for you until you go and fail marital counseling. What does failing marital counseling look like? A divorce? I mean, can you imagine a man going in to see his doctor saying, "Doc, I can't get it up." He'd be given Viagra. There wouldn't even be a question. So these are the types of things that made me angry. But then there were so many incredible things. Halle Berry was there virtually. And she said, when we go through menopause, we should be thrown a siesta.
I like that.
Isn't that fantastic?
Yes.
I know. I loved it. And she told the story of what went on with her and how she got to this space. She was misdiagnosed with her brand new boyfriend of a sexual disease, which ended up to not be true and took her down this space. And it was unbelievable. We heard from Sage Robbins, who is, think of the nicest kindergarten teacher, that kind soul that you just want to sit and listen to her, because she just has this voice that brings you in. And she talks about what we need to be doing for ourselves, along with taking personal responsibility for the choices we're making and all of that. Keys that I took away that I kept hearing from all the doctors. There was a leading cardiologist, Dr. Jane Morgans, and she talked about the connection between menopause and heart disease. And it's a time of increased risk for women. 80% of heart disease is preventable. And women catch up to men in heart disease once they go through menopause. And HRT may very well be important to protecting heart and brain. So she also talked about speaking the language of the system. And I remember this very well, when you're in this place of just despair and you're just feeling crappy and you know something's wrong, and it's not because you didn't eat enough salads and you go in to see the doctor and you're trying, and I'm like word vomit. And at some point, all I should have done was say, I would like an EKG, right? That is a baseline that every single woman needs in their toolbox, in their health record. You need a baseline, preferably before you start through menopause, but get it when you can. And paying attention to vague symptoms. Again, I think it's the collective, right? There is a firestorm of interest, and there's going to be a firestorm of information, social media. And I think one thing that's very, very important for everyone to remember is, through this whole barrage of new social media that you're going to be seeing on menopause and all the things that are needed, make sure you're listening to people who really have
the credentials and have a reason for what they're doing beyond making a buck. And also, you keep saying menopause, and I think I need to also stress to people that perimenopause is actually when you start paying attention. Absolutely. I am not a doctor. I've been through it, and I've read a lot, and I follow a lot of people. And for some people, that could even be in their late 30s, and it kind of shows up emotionally before anything. That's what happened to me, but I didn't know that that's what it was. Like, no one said that to me. They're just like, oh, I'll give you some antidepressant, you'll be fine, which for me, I didn't do. Probably should have, but I didn't.
Maybe not, because you may have intuitively known that's not what's going on. That's not what I need. I'm not, but again, how many women were told that same thing, and who benefited off of that?
Yeah. I mean, I went through a lot. And the one thing that I always say with clients of mine, when I maybe started with them in their 30s and I'm watching them grow up, age, and a few of them have had some bad days. And some of them have been when they've been with me. And I'll never forget, one of my clients was a mess, and she didn't know why, but she thought it was work related, blah, blah, blah. And I grabbed her and I said, you're starting perimenopause. I am not a doctor, but I can tell you that. And I just want to know, when you start hating your dog, you're definitely in perimenopause. But it's just my way of joking around, because nothing is going to make you happy. It's your hormones, I say, taking over for the time being.
But you see it over and over again. How many doctors? There's a doctor, Dr. April Lind. She was in the insurance provider process, and now she's self-pay. She kept seeing patients who were going through all the same things at all the same time, and there weren't treatment options available. And so she had to go outside of the way medicine is delivered to start looking for what's really happening, because she couldn't get the answer she needed in 10 minutes of seeing a patient. That's what you're looking for, right? To validate what you're going through. And you have data. You have data from all of your clients. If everybody's going through this same thing, you're like a scientist putting this all together, and everything you do helps the next person.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely can. I've watched it happen. I've watched it even as when I was that young person and I was helping older people and I watched the shift in them. I kind of took that in and I thought, oh, that's not going to happen to me. Oh, yeah, it did. Oh, yes, it did. I've watched it with my own eyes. So
Dr. Karen Mann from Noom talking about belly fat. Estrogen tells fat where to go. When you're younger, it tells it to go into your butt and your boobs and all the places it's nice there. And when estrogen wanes, even in men, weight goes to visceral fat. It goes around the middle, and we lose 3 to 8% of our muscle mass as we age. So you compound that with redistribution of fat, and insulin resistance comes into play. So we have to take care of ourselves differently, and mindset's critical. So there's a mindset shift that needs to happen. But how many times have you said, well, oh my God, I'm not doing anything differently. I'm doing the same kind of exercising. I'm eating the same. So why am I all of a sudden? Well, there's a biology for it of why it's happening now. So if you really, common sense would say, okay, if it's biology, which you can't do anything about unless you're doing hormone replacement therapy and really looking at it differently. So you do need to make some changes. It's the common sense approach to it, as opposed to the 10 minutes you spend with the doctor and they say, oh, well, you need an antidepressant.
Yeah.
Unreal. I have more questions than answers. The good news is, Lisa, very excited to welcome Joanna Strober. She is the founder of Midi Health, a virtual care platform for women in perimenopause and menopause. The company brings expert care covered by insurance to women nationwide. Prior to Midi, Joanna founded Kerbo, the first digital therapeutic platform for childhood obesity, which was scaled to help tens of thousands of children worldwide. And the company was successfully sold to Weight Watchers in 2018. Prior to diving into digital health, she spent more than 20 years in direct private equity and venture capital investing in health and consumer companies. She is the author of the book, Getting to 50-50, a primer on how women can succeed and thrive at work and home. She has spoken extensively to corporate and graduate school audiences on the topic of women in leadership. She was also named to the Forbes 50 over 50 list of top innovators in 2023. Joanna, welcome.
Thank you.
Beyond excited to have you here for so many reasons. To get started, we were both at an event on Saturday, and I realized too late that, yes, you were there, and you realized that it was me, and we didn't connect there, but I sure like Dr. Mindy Bowman. She's phenomenal. And I really like what Midi Health is doing. Why did you feel now was the time to do this?
So it's interesting because you heard Dr. Mindy Goldman speak at the event, and Dr. Goldman is one of the preeminent researchers and doctors focusing on women in menopause, with a particular interest in women who had cancer, or particularly breast cancer, because those women are harder to treat for menopause. I think that menopause is a massively undertreated, underserved group of women. And we're not just talking about like menopause. We have this idea it's old ladies with gray hair. That's how all the pictures have been, right? Ladies with gray hair. But perimenopause starts in your 30s. And that change of estrogen that happens and goes up and down impacts every part of your body. And honestly, I've seen so many women in my life get derailed by symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. And I experienced this myself firsthand when I tried to get care when I was in my late 40s. My marriage was not doing well. We were going to marriage therapy. I was struggling with sleep issues. I was gaining weight, did not feel like myself, and couldn't get treated. I went to different doctors and they told me to get a sleep study for my sleep and also gave me some sleeping pills, but said I couldn't take them very often. I was going to marriage therapy about, painful sex. And that's not what you need to do for painful sex. Why did my marriage therapist never say, well, maybe this is perimenopause? She never did that. So eventually I was able to get good care. So I found a doctor in San Francisco. I drove an hour and a half to get there, and I paid her $1,500, and I sat in her office and I got the right medications, combination of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. My whole life changed. And it was really eye-opening that I was just super sad that I spent so long without this care. And so what I'm excited about doing in Midi is just basically democratizing access to that care and making sure that all women get access to really high quality hormone-informed care.
When you had that moment, what made you decide this is what I want to do now? At what point did you make that shift?
So actually, the reason I made the shift was not related to all of that. So I spent years thinking about hormones, and if you were in my house, you would see there's books all over the place where I was reading about hormones and understanding hormones. And for years, I was thinking someone needs to do a company to do this. And I was working at Weight Watchers, and I was learning a lot about marketing and how to market to women and how to talk to women. And also the weight loss medications were just starting. This was in 2020. And I was just starting to learn about weight loss medications. And I realized that Weight Watchers business was going to be massively disrupted by these weight loss medications. So I spent about a year putting together a business plan for them to go into the weight loss medication business. And I talked to Novo Nordisk, and I talked to Lilly, and I figured out how to start a national medical practice. And it's a long story short, but the board turned me down at the time. They said that it was just too risky for their business to go into medical weight loss because they're a behavior change company, and it was very threatening to them. So I cried. Honestly, I did. I got off the phone and I started to cry because I was like, wait, this is such a good idea. And then I realized that I could apply this idea to hormones. And so that's the true story. So I quit and I was like, okay, I'm going to go do this for hormones. And I had learned a lot about what it would take to start a national medical practice. And so it made it easy to go start this company.
Well, and your background in private equities and that type of thing, it's almost like it all came together. Like everything you did had to come together to this point to do it, which is one of the cool things about being an older person, right?
Yeah.
Being past our 50s and going, wait a minute, I have this body of knowledge. I'm not ready to set it on a shelf yet.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, actually. I feel like everything that I've done in my life up to this point has built to the fact that I could do this company.
That's awesome. So another thing that in doing my research on you and the BIT company and everything, the one thing that kept standing out to me is something that you say quite a bit. And I love it. It says you treat the woman, not her age. So what does that mean?
So, a lot of people think menopause is, when you haven't had your period, right? For a year. That's what menopause is. So when they see you and you're 35 or you're 45 or you're whatever age, they say, well, you're not in menopause and you're not, and they don't treat you appropriately. But honestly, there's so many different things that we can do to help women that are just not standard of care at this point. So our goal is to iterate with you. Honestly, I don't think our goal is to be a gatekeeper, and our goal is to offer you the solutions that you would like to try as long as they're safe. So honestly, I've gotten very interested in GLP microdosing. There's really good research that the new GLP medications are reducing inflammation and can be health promoting and maybe prevent Alzheimer's. If you'd like to try that, we'll figure out how you can try that.
What is GLP microdosing? I don't know what that means.
So the GLP medications are essentially the medications that are branded as Ozempic or as
Wegovy.
Got it. Okay.
So those are made of GLPs, and essentially there's really good research that shows that those are not just good for weight loss, but for inflammation, right? And so if you lived on the Upper East Side in New York City and you had a concierge doctor, he would probably be offering it to you. Our job is to say, you know what, if this is something you'd like to try, we would like to enable that too, using that as one example. Or, women come to us and they have gained 20 pounds and they're not obese by any means, but they are having really a hard time losing that weight. We have a whole apothecary of different things that you can try. So we don't want to have judge you at all for your choices and for what you're interested in. We want to help educate you and then give you access to medications, supplements, whatever's appropriate for you so you can feel great. And that's really how I think about what we're doing.
I have a couple clients that just did that, and they are the happiest I've ever seen them. And they're still working their brains off, in their profession, but they feel really good. And they're in that age, they're in their early 50s. So
yeah, right.
I have done the GLPs and continue to do the GLPs.
Great.
And I have no problem talking about it because I had truly a 25-year journey of trying to get to good health. And really, when I look back on it, in our intro, Lisa and I talked about it, the anger that I have going back to that of the lost years because I couldn't find the right place, yet knowing intuitively that I am not broken.
Right.
There is something. And it's as simple as when your estrogen starts to dip, what happens to fat? And hearing those things, it's like, why can't we talk really in common sense? These are common sense things that are going on. And when it's happening, I think that's one of the good things of social media is that you are seeing that, oh my God, I'm not alone. This is happening. And that's one of the good things about being in that room is that there's people so excited. In that room, I mean, talking about that event.
Yeah.
On Saturday, there are so many people that there's a lot of people looking at it as, okay, how can we benefit from this? But there was a lot of people saying, okay, we need to get this word out because it's so critically important.
Yeah.
That's the next step I want to ask you about. And I want you to explain a little bit more the Midi model because I know it pretty well.
Midi Health is a national healthcare clinic, essentially. We have 250 providers now who are providing care to women around the country and insurance covered care, which we're really proud of. But what we do is we train all of our providers to understand all the issues related to women's health and their hormones and what happens when estrogen declines in your body and how we can give you a roadmap to be better. So we actually joke sometimes that when you come to your first visit, we need to wave a wand and say, which symptom do you want to start with first? Because women often come and they start to cry and they have 20 symptoms. And we're like, okay, we have to start with one. We're going to give you, the right thing for that one medication. If you want that for that one symptom, let's get you on that, right? And then let's iterate with you on that one. And then we'll get to the next symptom. So it is about a roadmap that you can't necessarily solve it all in one chunk. So women come and we iterate. I think of us as the iteration company. We might put you on a estrogen patch and a progesterone. I'm just going to make it up. 100 milligrams of progesterone and a 0.5 estrogen patch. And you're going to come back a month later and we're going to say, okay, are you sleeping? Is your brain fog any better? Well, let's see. Maybe we need to go to 200 milligrams of progesterone and maybe we need to go to a 0.75 patch. And then we'll try that for a month. And then you might come back and say, I'm doing better, but I'm still having some brain fog. And we'll say, well, maybe we'll add testosterone and see if that helps, right? So it's an iterative process. And what we have learned with women are not like, it's not like a one size fit all. Like I joke that some companies view estrogen like a vending machine, like pop estrogen. It's not like that, right? It is very much an iterative process. And our job is to iterate with you and to have the entire apothecary available and then offer you things and let you try them and see how you feel and then keep going.
So do you have them do blood work that's connected with this, or how does that work?
Blood work is optional, but not required. So many women would like to have blood work, and we can absolutely prescribe that blood work for you, and it can be covered by insurance, which is great. The issue, particularly with estrogen, is that estrogen fluctuates like this, right? So you might get the blood work done here, and the next day it might be here, the next day it might be here. So unless you went in 30 days in a row, you might not know exactly what's happening with your estrogen. But there's lots of other important blood tests that we can get for you, and we can help you to iterate on all the different markers. It is definitely about an iterative process.
I think, too, we have to talk about is the patience that's required, because when women come to you, they've been feeling bad for a long time.
Yeah.
So when you say this is going to take some time to figure that out, you're talking about the patience that, okay, this isn't it's not going to happen in a week.
So with estrogen, it can happen in a week, to be clear.
Actually, it did for me, but that's true. But it's not necessarily, right? Depending on what all you're looking at. So building in the expectations of what's going to happen, but really getting back to the blood test, I found that fascinating. What is it? Testosterone is really the only one you can...
Testosterone, if we put you on testosterone, then you do need to get quarterly blood tests because we need to monitor it very closely to make sure you don't overdo it. So we're very careful with that.
Talk about how testosterone benefits women.
So the thing that testosterone is unequivocally proven for is low libido. So the first reason to prescribe it is for that. There is emerging evidence, and I'm going to say this is emerging, it is not established yet, that there is benefit to mental acuity, to bone strength. It gets back to the fact there's not enough research on women, quite honestly. And so women's health is so massively under-researched and underfunded. So we don't have all of the data, but there is good emerging research that shows that testosterone can benefit these other things. And so we will prescribe it for those other things.
Fascinating. What happens to men when they have low estrogen? We talk about men and testosterone all the time, but wouldn't it stand to reason men can also have low estrogen?
I'm not a doctor, so I want to not try to pretend that I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
I don't know the research on that.
It's interesting. I'm going to do a little more searching about that because not that I want to spend all that much time. There's so much time spent on men's research.
Look it up. Do men have estrogen? I can look it up.
I know they have estrogen, and I think about there are certain types of cancers because I remember a dear friend had what is the most common type of cancer that doesn't kill men, but I'm totally blanking.
Well, men can get breast cancer.
Men can get breast cancer,
Yeah.
but not testicular cancer. But anyway, they put.
So what I do know is, we have this face cream that we make for women. It is a estrogen face cream, and essentially, if you think about estrogen in our bodies, as estrogen goes down, one of the things that happens is our skin gets thinner and less moist. And the place that most women think about that is with their vagina, because the vaginal walls get thin, and that's actually why painful sex happens. And so most women, like 95% of women, should be using vaginal estrogen. I don't know who shouldn't be using vaginal estrogen, so that the walls of their vagina stay thick. So there's some really good research on estriol, which is a weaker form of estrogen, and putting it on your face. And then it does the same thing for your face. It can thicken the epidermis and make your skin moister. And so we started making that skin cream, and people really like it. And so they are asking if their husbands can use it too. And we've had husbands ask to use it too. And we have not seen any research on that. So we do not recommend that their husbands use it. But we've had husbands come and say, look, my wife's face looked much better. I'd like to try it. I don't know. I haven't seen any research on it to know if it's a good idea or not.
Men definitely have estrogen because Dr. Kelly Mann was talking about estrogen tells fat where to go, right? And when estrogen wanes, even in men, weight goes to visceral fat. It goes around the middle.
Got it. Okay. Huh. Cool.
So that I took notes on this. Lisa was so proud of me for taking notes, right? We're like the yin and yang here, if you haven't picked up on that. And then you compound that with insulin resistance and so the redistribution of fat and all of that. So here's my question. Here's my when women were told to just, here's an anti-anxiety drug.
Yeah.
When, they went in for all the problems that we've had, right? Intuitively, something's wrong. I got to go in. I'm surprised you weren't told to take an antidepressant.
Oh, I was.
Oh, you were. Yeah, of course. So why wouldn't, because men are and still are the primary doctors of the world, right? Why wouldn't they have wanted more research and all that to keep their women partners, their wives, happier and more and having great sex?
Actually, I think they do. I do think that we actually do webinars for men, and we have so many people come, so many men come. They care deeply about their wives and their marriages, and they see that this is a really big issue with their marriage, and they don't have the knowledge either. So I was at a party last weekend, and a guy came up to me. I didn't know who he was, and he said, "I just want you to know, Midi saved my marriage. I'm so grateful." And I smiled, and he said, and then his wife came up and she's like, "Yeah, I was so angry at him all the time, and it wasn't fair to him that I was so angry. And I don't know where that anger was coming from, but now that and she showed me her patch. She goes, now that I have my patch, I'm not angry anymore." So I do think it's important for men to understand this so that we can all help each other to get through this time.
100%. My question is more to the doctors back from, 30 years ago. There again, when you think about it, they're just doing what they've been told or what they've been trained.
Yeah.
They're just trying to get through the day.
For a woman that's our age, past menopause, 64 on up, do you still recommend that they might do some sort of patch or something? Okay.
We do. We don't think it's ever too late. Our new motto is never too early and never too late. So that is how we have started to think about this. The research shows that women over 65 can absolutely use hormones. There's a calcium score that they get that we have send out to get a test because the risk reward ratio changes a little bit, and we just want to make sure that your heart is healthy. But we will absolutely prescribe an estrogen patch and testosterone for women who are over 65.
And your research has found, for example, like my sister is a 2-time breast cancer survivor. So in the past, I was not allowed to do estrogen replacement therapy because that's what her breast cancer, I don't know the exact term for it, right? So I never could do any of that. But now they're finding that they don't feel that that's really the same, right?
That is correct. There is no
Okay.
evidence that having a family history of breast cancer has any impact at all on whether you take estrogen.
Okay.
If your sister had estrogen positive breast cancer,
She did.
then depending on how many years ago that was, she may or may not be eligible. Sometimes if it was a really long time ago, those women do still take estrogen, but it depends whether it's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Again, Dr. Mindy Goldman, who Katie heard speak this weekend, is the world's expert in this, and she writes all of our breast cancer protocols. But if you have a family history of breast cancer, there is no reason why you cannot take estrogen.
Okay, good to know. I'll be looking into that. I will be looking into that.
That's a light
Because I've
bulb.
never been able to do it. And I'm actually going to tell my sister to look into it. She just had a reoccurrence 2 years ago. So
yeah, so then we would have other things, but there are new medications on the market, really good medications that are particularly good for breast cancer survivors and these are menopause medications that don't have estrogen in them.
Wonderful. I'm going to let her know.
I think this is such important news too. And because when you think of the treatment that you have to go through when you have breast cancer and what that does to your whole system, anything you can do to help get yourself back to some state of feeling normal has to be so appreciated.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, incredible. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about GLP-1s because we're throwing that term around, and I want to talk about what that actually means. And then I also want to talk about what your day looks like, what you do with a given day and how because you're everywhere. You're everywhere. And that's a good thing. So stay tuned.
But doing something so important.
Thank you.
Amen.
You are invited to make your way to a beautifully inventive and delightful store in the Galleria called Sweet Ivy. Becky Leffler's inspiration for the store comes from her vacations in Marco Island, where she relished in the sensory delights, intoxicating aromas, vivid colors, and exquisite products in the local gift shops. She has gone on to curate a beautiful selection of apparel, shoes, accessories, and gifts born of her love for unique products and her unwavering belief in her vision brought to life and cared for by a fabulous staff. Feminine, chic, pieces that will elevate and stay in your wardrobe for years to come. Brands like Tyler Bow from Rhode Island, Spartina 449, and Magic Pants by Lise. Not to be forgotten is Littles by Sweet Ivy, their predominantly children's store and home to Barefoot Dreams, which you need to experience. Give yourself the gift of this store in the Galleria. Shop Sweet Ivy. ShopSweetIvy.com.
Joanna, thanks so much for being with us again in the little bit of time we have left. GLP-1s, I said when we came back, we're going to talk about them. But what I want to know is, again, what is the process somebody goes through when they go through Midi to get their health back? Right?
Yeah.
Talk about the
So
GLP-1s.
when you think about coming to us, right? Women come to us for weight issues. They come to us for menopause issues. And we have a whole apothecary of tools in our tool shed, right? And so one of the things that we do offer is to prescribe the appropriate weight loss medication for you. And for many women, that would be a GLP-1. That might be Wegovy. It might be Ozempic. It might be a compounded process. There are a lot of options, but honestly, these medications have been proven safe and effective for weight loss. And, one thing that's interesting is when they first came out, they were only for people who had a BMI over some number, right? They really were only for people. You had to have a 27 BMI with comorbidities, or you had to have a 30 BMI. And we looked at our ladies who were coming to us, and, some of them, maybe they were Asian and they were very petite and they had gained 30 pounds in the last 2 years with menopause. And we said, you know what, you'd be perfectly appropriate for a GLP. So we early on realized this does not just have to be for people who suffered from obesity, that it was actually something that was a very good solution for women who had menopausal weight loss needs. So we have been prescribing them for quite a while for women who have gained midlife weight and want help losing that weight. And the other thing that we're finding is that we can give it to you in small doses. This gets back to the microdosing comment that I made. So you don't have to have full doses. You can have small doses, and that can help you both to lose the weight and to keep it off.
What's considered a small dose?
It's really everything is is personalized to you. So
Yeah,
it is about personalization.
And I think, if I have to stay on this the rest of my life, quite honestly, I would be fine with that.
Yeah,
I have
I
had
agree.
zero side effects. My heart numbers are better. My cholesterol numbers are better.
Yeah.
There's not one thing. My cardiologist at Mayo is like perfectly fine with it. My neurologist at Mayo,
Right.
perfectly fine with it. It's a watershed moment for us as women to be able to say, wait a minute, I can do something, right? We think nothing about being on a medication to get your blood pressure
Right.
down. We think nothing of what's the medication they gave if your cholesterol numbers were off.
Yeah.
Right? We think nothing of that. And so it's life changing.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's been around for 20 years. I think that's the other thing. This has been around, so it does have the research behind it. Okay, back to you for a minute, because I feel like I'm so excited about what's going on with what you're doing, right? But I want people to learn about you. What's your day look like?
So for the first 2 years of the company, we didn't have an office. I was just being run from my house. So I would come downstairs early and get on Zoom. And, honestly, most of my day is either on email or Zoom. I wear my Menopause is Hot shirt every day. I don't really actually go out very much. I really am just here working and spending my life recruiting people, talking about Midi, reading research, interviewing people. Yeah, I lead a pretty boring life, to be honest. I mean, the work I'm doing is incredibly exciting, but my life is mostly just sitting in front of the computer and making sure that we do a really good job. We're taking care of over 10,000 women this week. So my job really is to make sure that we provide amazing care to all 10,000 of those women, and that we use whatever tools we can to ensure that they all get really high quality care.
Fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. And I don't know how to say this correctly, but I think that there's women that are afraid, or they have stigmas attached.
Yeah.
And they don't want to ask for help.
Yeah.
Because they think, look at what I do for a living, and I don't need that, and I can do this myself. I'm actually one of those people, right? So it's nice, like Katie, who's my podcast partner, has done this with you already and sees the benefits. And I just really encourage women they can quietly go on your website and they can start it. Nobody needs to know but them.
I joke, we have some of the most powerful women in the world as our patients, and we have Amazon factory workers as our patients, and they all get the same care. They all can do it from wherever they are. You can do it from your office. We have women doing it from the carpool lane while they're waiting to pick up their kids. We don't want you to be driving, but as long as you're parked, it's good. But, women will call in from their closets and their houses. It's actually incredibly empowering to them. They don't have to go to a doctor's office to have these conversations. You can have it online with people we are very cognizant of privacy, and we follow all the HIPAA rules, and we're very, very privacy conscious. But it means a lot to women that they don't have to go to the office to get this type of care. And then getting back to stigma, one thing that I've come to realize is, longevity and health span is a big topic right now that everyone is thinking about. Menopause and perimenopause care is longevity care. It is actually the same thing. And taking care of your hormones is the best way to extend your life healthier. And taking care of your hot flashes is good for your heart. Taking care of your hormones is good for your bones. It is all interconnected. So you don't have to people say, I don't want to say that I'm in menopause or perimenopause, but you don't have to. Just say, I'm just taking care of my body. And so that's actually what I've come to realize, is you don't have to talk about menopause. It can be stigmatizing. Just think of it as this is a way to keep my body healthy. And I want to be an old healthy grandmother who is running after her grandkids and able to that's what I want from my life. And honestly, taking care of myself now in your 30s and 40s and 50s is how you're going to get there. And so that is actually a lot of what I think about. It's both treating symptoms and helping women to just live longer, stronger. And that's really important.
Thank you for everything you're doing. JoinMidi.com is how you get to Midi and get more information. If people want to reach out to you, they can go do that through LinkedIn, would be the easiest. Your superpower. Do you have a superpower? Besides your tenacity.
I have a saying that I really like, which is when you get tired, rest, don't quit. And that is how I like to live my life.
Oh
Love
my
it.
God, I need to put
That's
that on my
amazing.
phone. That
Yeah.
is me to a
Yeah.
T.
That
Rest,
should be
don't
printed
quit.
up and put everywhere.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Oh,
Thank you.
that
Listen,
is awesome.
I
Thank
know.
you. I'm putting that on my phone.
It's a good one, right? It's
That's a
motivating.
really good one. That's a really good one. And a good
Yeah.
lesson for all of us. Lungcancerresearchfoundation.org is who you picked as your nonprofit. How does that tie in?
My very close friend, Susan Wojcicki, died at age 56 of lung cancer. And lung cancer actually strikes women disproportionately more than men. And also, it is increasing in women who are young non-smokers. And so I really want there to be more research on preventing lung cancer in women. And so that's why I chose this.
Thank you so much. It's lungcancerresearchfoundation.org is the website. It's worth going to and supporting. Joanna, thank you so much for being with us. Truly, we are grateful, and we wish you continued success in the important work that you're doing, and definitely know you are not going to quit.
I appreciate it.
You deserve the rest too.
And I know I'm a wardrobe consultant, and I help women with how they look, but Midi is going to be added to a little hanger in their closet because this is the age group of women that I help. So
yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks much.
Thank you, guys.
Lisa, I really like what she reiterated or taught us. If we don't know about estrogen, truly fluctuates, right? I mean, it fluctuates through our entire lives with a slow decline, right? I think going back to that common sense that we all have is that, wait a minute, it's imperative for us to be in control of our own lives, and we know what we need. So finding the right place to align with a doctor that can help you. That's what's.
And I think for a lot of people, including myself, it's overwhelming to think about right away, okay, now I got to go to their website, and then I have to sign up, and then I have to see, is my insurance covered? Does it not cover it? And what is the cost? And by the time we get all of that done, we're like exhausted because we have 8,000 other things we've done in a day. And you've done all that, right?
I
And
have done all that.
Now you see what it's done for you to get through your 8,000 things in a day. You're actually doing them easier.
More joyful. There has been more joy that has come back to my life. So yes, it is overwhelming. And part of the reason it's overwhelming is because you're not in a good place with your hormonal levels. It's the catch-22. It's what comes first, the chicken or the egg. If you can get yourself through the process of finding the right help, you will reap the benefits for years to come.
So Katie, very simply, explain to someone how they do it. Like, do they go to the website, like very quickly, step
Go to
1, 2, 3, 4.
joinmidi.com. And it's been a while since I did it. I did it probably 9 months ago, but I remember it being super easy. And I signed up and I ended up booking an appointment, and they're working with a lot of PAs. And if you've ever been to a PA, even in your doctor's office, the thing that I hear overwhelmingly from people who go to PAs is, well, they seem to spend more time with me than the doctor does.
Well, hello, my daughter's a PA.
Correct. And I got more questions answered, and I got more time with them. So Midi uses a model of PAs. I don't know if 100%, we didn't ask her that question, but I know that they are well-versed in the gynecological space, right? Past the point of obstetrics, because we're not talking about having children here. That's a whole nother area. There's a lot of help out there with that. But this is really when you get to the needing pure gynecological care. So these PAs are very well versed in gynecological care. You make an appointment, it's a virtual appointment, and you go through everything. And then you're going to have steps that you can take to get yourself back to optimum health for you. And that's really the key. It is not covered for me. They're covered 70%, I think was the number. They're covered for insurance. So you've got a pretty good chance of them being covered. But I'm going to tell you, for me personally, it's worth the out-of-pocket funds that are very reasonable to me. And that's all going to be dependent on where your budget is at. But I would definitely go on and go through this process. If you are not feeling yourself chances are it's hormonal related.
And some people don't know if they're feeling themselves because it's their normal and they brush it off, right? I mean, me included. So sometimes just having somebody else on the other end ask you questions and see what your answers are can even help you redefine if you need the help or not.
That's a great point. I will be, I think you should do the process. And I would love to hear, I think we inquiring minds want to know. Lisa,
I am definitely going to do the process. I will tell you that I got a very crazy busy 2 weeks right now, and I don't want to do it in the middle of that because I want to be able to. I'm a rule follower.
You are, but let me, I'm going to push back a little bit on this because you can go set your account up and do all of that. And then you set your appointment for when you have time, 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now, whatever it is. So it's not going to be an instantaneous, you're going on there and you're going to get an appointment. And I know that for me, Miss Impatient Katie, I probably wanted that back then. And that's one thing that this has brought me to too, is a place that this takes time, but I'm worth that, taking that time. That's what I'd say about that.
Okay, that's good to know, Katie.
And truly, to be our best selves, we need to advocate for ourselves, but we also need to look in our mirrors and see ourselves for what we need. And if we're not feeling our best, if you're looking in the mirror going, I don't like this, I don't like that, perhaps you do need to look at a different way of doing something, right? Our mirror gives us a reflection of us, and to be honest with ourselves and also say, we are the best version, so let's do everything we can to make ourselves the best version.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If people want to get a hold of us, it's going to be me this time.
Yes.
We are on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, or you can go to our website, theviewinyourmirror.com.
Yes, you can, Lisa. And until next time, we wish you the best version of you that can possibly be.